Azerbaijan, Georgia, Armenia. Anne and I had been fascinated by the idea of these countries for some time, with their connection to the ancient trade routes between East and West, known as the Great Silk Road. Their cultures and history dating back to Neolithic times, and their diverse landscapes, from vast semi-deserts to towering mountains of the Great Caucasus Range. After our arrival in Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, the bright, colourful atmosphere of our hotel set the scene for our introduction to this fascinating city. And there was so much room after spending much too many hours in aircraft cabins. The city itself is stunning, with many of its buildings constructed using local sandstone. In contrast, there are ultra-modern architectural designs, such as these flame towers. And someone has to clean the windows. Our guide took us on a tour of the city. On our way to an elevated area called Upland Park, we passed through Memory Alley, or Martyrs Lane, which is a memorial dedicated to those killed by the Soviet Army during Black January 1990 in a violent crackdown on Azerbaijan nationalism and anti-Soviet sentiment in Baku. And also those killed in the 44-day Nagorno-Karabakh War in 2020, involving Azerbaijan and Armenia. There are great views of the city, Baku Bay and the Caspian Sea from the balustrades of Upland Park. The Crescent development project, that consists of 3 skyscrapers and a hotel designed to look like a crescent moon, immediately catches the eye. The crescent moon references the symbol present on the Azerbaijan flag. The flame towers dominate the skyline both day and night. They represent the wealth generated by the natural gas reserves that fuel the Azerbaijan economy. The gas and oil fields are both government-owned. London-style taxis can now be seen driving around Baku. The locals refer to these purple ones as eggplants. Maiden Tower is the symbol of the city of Baku. The origins of the tower are shrouded in mystery. No one seems to really know when or why it was built, or even how it got its name. Even my old friend here didn't seem to know. But our guide Sama had her own story about how the tower got its name.
That princess went up to the roof and threw herself into the sea. So it's called Maiden Tower. But I have to tell you that it's not true. It's just legend. Unfortunately, and maybe fortunately, I don't know. Every tower has got the same romantic, lovely story. It's not true. But indeed, why is it called Maiden? Because the wall is very thick, 5 meters. Before, enemies had not such a strong weapons to capture this tower. So it's remained uncaptured as a virgin. So it's called Maiden Tower, as a virgin tower, because it never been captured, never been destroyed by enemies.
Inside the tower were displays of how access was made to its 8 stories, and also how water was drawn from the well. It is believed that there was enough room throughout the tower to accommodate 200 people. Up on the roof were more great views of the Baku skyline. Next to the tower is a hotel, previously a private mansion, where General Charles de Gaulle stayed in 1944 during the Second World War. From there we explored the old city, seeing the hammams or bathhouses, a market square, carpet shops, art studios and souvenir stalls.
Each caravanserai has a fountain in the middle of the
Sama took us into a caravanserai, which was a roadside inn, where caravanners and their camels or horses could rest from the day's journey. Caravanserais were found across the network of trade routes, most notably the Silk Road. Some of the walls that once surrounded the old city of Baku still stand, this section beside a narrow cobblestone street. Penny suddenly felt that she was being closed in. Wandering through the back lanes of the old city, you never know what you may come across. Like this sculpture on a sculpture of the Azerbaijan poet Hadid. There was also the Museum of Miniature Books, the only institution of its kind in the world. The private collection, consisting of thousands of tiny hardbacks, is a bibliophile Zarifa Salahova. The sizes of the books range from macro mini down to ultra mini micro. The collection contains the world's smallest book, measuring just 2 by 2 millimetre. Along with Maiden Tower, Shirvanshah's palace is one of Baku's most important historical landmarks. Built in stages over several centuries, it consists of a palace, a mosque, a mausoleum, a minaret and a bathhouse. During the Middle Ages, it served as the seat of power and residence of northeastern Azerbaijan's ruling family. The main building is now being used as a museum, displaying daily life objects from the 12th to 19th century. The information board refers to the marks on the wall as traces of shootings. It also states that in 1918, Armenian Dashnaks, revolutionaries, committed genocide in many parts of Azerbaijan, including Baku. At lunch, we were free to investigate the many eating options in the vicinity. Leaving the old city, we visited Baku's showpiece, the Heydar Aliyev Center.
On the right, you see the Heydar Aliyev Center, which was built in 2013. It was finished to build in 2013 by Zaha Hadid.
Dame Zaha Hadid, a world-renowned Iraqi-British architect, is a major figure in the postmodern architecture of the late 20th and early 21st centuries. This design masterpiece has no straight lines or corners anywhere in its construction, flowing into the shape of a wave. Zaha Hadid has gained the nickname of the Queen of Curve. Extending on 8 floor levels, the centre accommodates a 1,000-seat auditorium, exhibition space, a conference centre, workshops and a museum. Many hours can be spent wandering its spacious interior. The centre is named after Heydar Aliyev, Azerbaijan's president from 1993 to 2003. A great way to end a busy day was to take a stroll on Baku's extensive Caspian Sea boardwalk. More interesting buildings include the Carpet Museum and the Caspian waterfront mall in the shape of a huge flower. That evening, while enjoying an Azerbaijan-style meal, we were entertained by traditional folk dancing. Gobustan Reserve is an open-air archaeological museum where there are caves and petroglyphs of the Neolithic or Stone Age period. Before going to the reserve, we visited the Gobustan National Park Museum. Several interesting and informative displays took us back in time and was a good introduction to the outdoor reserve. The rock-strewn reserve is found in a semi-desert region. Figures and images etched on boulders and rock faces depict men hunting antelope and wild bulls, women dancing and general lifestyle. Most stand out clearly, while some were less easy to decipher. In prehistoric times, these natural holes would have trapped precious rainwater for drinking, and there were signs that efforts had been made to divert water into them. And to finish on a good note, Penny demonstrated the music stone. Our next stop was at some mud volcanoes, these ones in the Gobustan area. Mud volcanoes are a unique natural phenomenon, and Azerbaijan has the most of any country. They are usually associated with oil and gas fields. As it turned out, we saw a rather tame display, as when they really get going, it can be all fire and brimstone. It was blowing a gale while we were there, and as interesting as it was, we didn't stay any longer than we had to. And I learned too late not to be downwind when one was blurting.
Okay, now we're in Ateşkah. Ateşkah is translated like as an Ateş fire, yeah, temple. Temple of fire.
The Ateşkah Fire Temple on the Absheron Peninsula is in the same form as it was in the 18th century. It was used as a Hindu, Sikh and Zoroastrian place of worship, with the fires fed from the natural gas oozing from the ground. Surrounding the altar and courtyard are a number of cells that were used by the monks. They are now used for displays representing life as it was then. The natural gas pressure has now depleted due to almost a century of exploitation of petroleum and gas in the area, but it must have been spectacular back then with all 4 chimneys blazing. Yanadug means burning mountain. It may have been a relatively small mountain, but it certainly had flames emanating from it. The surface flames result from the steady gas emissions from underlying soils through vents in the sandstone formation.
And it's a natural flame, it's a natural fire. Actually, it's a gas, methane gas, which started to burning in the period before Christ, and it's burning till now. Before, all this hill was covered by flame. Now you see just only a small part.
From what we had seen so far in Azerbaijan, it's no wonder it is often referred to as the land of fire. On the way back to town, we saw an oil field stretching as far as the eye could see. We left the oil and gas fields and the busy city behind and headed northwest towards the border with Georgia. This was our last full day in Azerbaijan, and we had a lot to see and do on the way, including an ancient mausoleum at Miraza and a spectacular mosque in the city of Sheki. At the village of Miraza is a unique monument, a 2-story mausoleum mosque of the 15th century, located next to an ancient cemetery. It is called Diri Baba and is believed to be the resting place of a saint of the same name. Built on a rock and cut into the cliff, it sits in harmony with the surrounding landscape. Inside, a narrow staircase leads to the second floor, which is the main floor. An inscription on the wall indicates the date of completion was 1402. More recent additions include an upgraded staircase to the mausoleum and easier access to some caves that were probably used for shelter by pilgrims.
Is this the well?
Yeah, not well, it's a food storage.
All right.
It's a food storage.
In the cemetery, inscriptions on the tombstones gave us no clue of the dates of the burials. But we did learn what symbols stood for men and ladies. Juma Mosque in Shamakai, the medieval capital city, had its latest reconstruction in 2013. The mosque is open to all, but you need to remove your shoes, and women must cover their heads. Juma Mosque has been destroyed and rebuilt several times throughout the centuries due to damage by earthquakes and by inter-ethnic clashes. Its earliest version dates back as far as 743 AD. The city of Shamakai has survived 11 major earthquakes through multiple reconstructions and served as one of the key towns on the Great Silk Road. We were now in a mountainous region, travelling through dense forest, when we slowed for a food hut. But there was no bucket of hot chips here. This was where they made kutab, Azerbaijan's favourite snack food. Thinly rolled dough is cooked briefly over a convex griddle known as a saj. The flatbread is then filled with meat, herbs or cheese, etc., folded and put back on the plate. Once heated, it's rolled up, and voila, yum. This was such a different Azerbaijan to what we had witnessed over the last couple of days. It was so green and had a rural atmosphere. The town of Sheki in the northwest claims to be Azerbaijan's loveliest town, with its grand old houses, tiled roofs and greenery. But before we had time to appreciate it, we were whisked away in private cars and taxis to the nearby village of Kish. There was nothing sinister about this. It was just that the narrow lanes near the ancient temple we were going to visit were not suitable for our bus to negotiate. The Church of Kish, often referred to as the Mother of Churches, began as Georgian Orthodox when it was built in the early 12th century. Later it became an Armenian or Caucasian Albanian church. Radiocarbon analysis of various objects found on the site showed that the cultic site found beneath the altar dates to about 3000 BC. Next door to the church, more cooking was in progress. This time, it was Georgian-style khachapuri, bread filled with cheese.
Please take.
Sorry that you're waiting for me. We have another group.
Meanwhile, our taxis had returned to pick us up. Our car was a Russian-built Lada. In this part of the world, especially in rural areas, the Lada is the popular, affordable runabout. They are found everywhere, some owners going to extreme lengths to keep them on the road. We returned down the hill to Sheki for a short walk around town. Part of the caravanserai is now a boutique hotel, but back in the 18th and 19th centuries it would have been buzzing with merchants, travellers and their animals on their way along the trade routes. At one end of the courtyard, a doorway opened out onto a large garden area. It would have been fun to stay there, but we couldn't complain about our hotel. Our room, or should I say rooms, were very generous in size. And though we had been enjoying the local food, it was a steak and chips that night. The next morning, we all wandered down to have a look at the palace of Sheki Khans. It was built in 1797 as a summer residence intended to house the Khans, the chiefs or rulers, who were in charge of controlling Sheki until the time when the territory was annexed by the Russian Empire in 1813. In the courtyard, we saw two giant sycamore trees. One is believed to be about 500 years old. The intricate patterns and tile work reflect the wealth generated by silkworm breeding and the trade in silk cocoons from the late 18th to 19th centuries. Around the corner, the result of some clever person's sense of humour. An expert in the art of making stained glass windows, in this case using timber, not lead, gave us a demonstration of the intricate art. Our time in Azerbaijan was fast running out. In no time we were at the border, and having passed through the Azerbaijan customs, we walked the 700 metres through no man's land to enter our next adventure, Georgia. Look out for our next episode when we invite you to join us as we continue our journey through this amazing part of the world, the Caucasus.